Well, it's another amazing Saturday, and we're going to be spending some time today talking about what it means to give back to others, give back and live a life of service. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it is time once again for Coffee Breaks with Steve. It is that time once again. It is Saturday, February 25th, 2023. And wherever you are, hope you're staying warm, unless you're in some of the places in the southeast, which have been hitting some record high temperatures. But in much of the country, it's been pretty chilly and even some really weird weather in some places. Portland area getting hit with a real heavy, unusual heavy snowfall a couple of days ago. Even in California and foothills around the Bay Area, around Los Angeles, interesting weather in a lot of the country. Might be, yes, I see Jay Zettervall's on there. Good morning, Shalane Shepherd. Might just be me. I don't know. I think there are going to be some more people tuning in. We'll watch for that, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see some more people getting on board here in the next few minutes. And if you are tuning in live, do make sure that you say hello in the chat so that we know that you're here. And if you are tuning in later on and watching this recorded, you can still participate in the conversation. So make sure that you put your comments in. That's how you become a part of the conversation. And we are glad that you're here today. And I don't want to spend too much waste too much time because I want to get to our guest and our topic today. But we do have some special days that I wanted to share with you. So let's talk about those for just a minute and share some of the days that are coming up this week. It's, again, amazing to think of the fact that February is almost over. We're going to be getting into March this week. So, yeah, the year is moving right along. And that's the other weird thing about some of this weather is the fact that we are in late February. Jay, I knew that. I saw some of Jerry's posts on Facebook the last couple of days and know that she got stranded because of the weather. So hopefully she will get home safely along with anyone else who may be traveling. What are some of the special days coming up this week? This happens on the fourth Saturday. It's not always on February 25th, but on the fourth Saturday in February, Open That Bottle Night. It's a night apparently to try some wine if you are so inclined. Hello, Kathy Garlic. If you are so inclined to pop open a bottle of wine, apparently this is the night to open that bottle. Maybe you've been saving it for a special occasion. Maybe you've just been waiting. I don't know. But apparently this is the night that you're supposed to be able to do that if you are so inclined to do that. And yeah, I would say go ahead. Let's see what else. This is tomorrow, Sunday, February 26th, National Pistachio Day. Are you a pistachio person? And if so, are you one of those that likes to get them, as shown in this picture, where they come inside the shell and you get to pop those open and take out those pistachios? Do you like them already shelled? Do you just like them in ice cream? Pistachio ice cream is a thing. Pistachio pudding, whatever it might be for you. What is your way to enjoy pistachios if you're a pistachio person? Apparently tomorrow's the day. Again, we don't need a special day. You can enjoy those anytime, but there you go. Also, tomorrow, February 26th, tell the words are not coming out. We know what that means. Everybody drink, right, Shalane? Shalane, you're made of pistachio. That's interesting. February 26th. That's still not happening. Tell a fairy tale day. Do you have a favorite fairy tale? It's interesting. One of the interesting things about fairy tales, like nursery rhymes, is a lot of them were written as sort of they were social messages and warnings about certain things that were metaphors within the fairy tales. But it's interesting to read fairy tales. So many of those have been turned into movies. Disney obviously has taken a lot of the fairy tales. Do you have a favorite fairy tale? A favorite one that you still like to go back and read, or is a memory from childhood, or is one of your favorite Yeah, just read that's a little bit different. My high school transcript is a fairy tale. You guys are funny. But one of the interesting plays, musicals that's out there was also turned into a movie is Into the Woods, which takes some of the a mashup of some of the classic fairy tales and brings characters in and then and tells the once upon a time story, but then goes on to the what happened after the once upon a time. And there's been a trend in movies in recent years where you've kind of seen either the backstory or the what happened after the once upon a time type of thing. But fairy tales, yes, indeed. Into the Woods is your favorite fairy tale, Shalane. I can understand that. The 27th, National Polar Bear Day. I think I actually saw on some of the posts International Polar Bear Day. So regardless, because there aren't that many polar bears hanging around nationally. They are in zoos and other locations in the United States. But I think the main idea about this is to consider the ecology, the preserving polar bears, making sure that they are protected so they don't become endangered. I don't know if they're already endangered, but I know that some of their natural habitats are being affected by global warming and other things. So this is a good day to look into what you can do to help preserve and support polar bears wherever they may be. This is one of those on this day in history that I thought was absolutely fascinating and a little bit kind of aged me a little bit to think about. But on February 28th, 1983, the final episode of MASH was broadcast on television. Okay, think about this. 1983, that's 40 years ago. 40 years ago, the final episode of MASH. It's 11 seasons on television. It began, went on the air, premiered as a television series in September of 1972, following a successful movie of the same name based on the book of the same name about exploits of doctors, of surgeons during the Korean War. But 40 years ago this next week. Yeah, I feel old now. And then on March 1st, which is also coming up this next week, March 1st being Wednesday, National Peanut Butter Lovers Day. The R got kind of cut off there, but it's National Peanut Butter Lovers Day. Are you a peanut butter person? Are you a peanut butter lover? Once again, you don't need a special day to enjoy peanut butter, but I guess this is the day, kind of like preserving the polar bears, we can preserve peanut butter. I don't know what we're supposed to do on that day other than enjoy peanut butter. Are you a smooth or is it chunky? What do we call that? Not crunchy. It's chunky peanut butter, right? If it's got the little pieces of peanuts in it. Some people can't enjoy it because of peanut allergies. I know there are substitutes, but they are not putting on your national peanut butter or something similar day. So, yeah. Right. Thanks, Shalane. Might be a pronunciation. Peanut butter liker. Okay. We can do a lot of things with peanut butter. Hey, by the way, hi, Jim Mockford. I see that you are on here as well. March 2nd, Dr. Seuss's birthday. Dr. Seuss, the author of so many children's books of various kinds. And also what they've done with that now is that March 2nd, which is Dr. Seuss's birthday, is also what is called Read Across America Day. And so it's a day where in a lot of schools and school systems, as well as other places, it really is the idea is to promote reading, literacy. And I do need to drink this. Absolutely. And then March 3rd, Friday, is National Anthem Day. Not the day that Francis Scott Key wrote the lyrics to our national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. He actually penned that on September 14th, 1814, during the why did my mind just go blank on which war that was? The War of 1812. It threw me because it was 1814 when he wrote it, but he was in a ship off the coast watching the battle for Fort McHenry and the tremendous shelling that the British were doing to that American fort. And in the morning, to see that the American flag was still waving, still tattered. If you go to the Smithsonian American History Museum in Washington, D.C., you can see the actual flag that was flying over Fort McHenry that day when that was written. Anyway, the reason March 3rd is that the Star-Spangled Banner was not our official national anthem until 1931, an act of Congress to pass that as our national anthem. The lyrics of Francis Scott Key's poem were put to a British song, which I always feel is kind of ironic given when it was written. But on March 3rd, 1931, President Herbert Hoover signed into law to make the Star-Spangled Banner our national anthem. So that is why March 3rd is the day. Did we have an anthem before that? I don't, that's a good question, Shalane. Did we have a national anthem before that? I think that there were various songs that were sung, but there was not, I don't think there was an official, there were different states had actually adopted the Star-Spangled Banner unofficially, if I recall the history, as an anthem that they would sing on special occasions on patriotic holidays, but it was not official. I think it was being utilized, but was not the official national anthem until 1931. Check me on that. Fact check me on that one. We've got several birthdays this week that I wanted to mention before we move on. And one of them is Addison Harris, my grandniece. Addison Harris has a birthday tomorrow, February 26th. So happy birthday, Addison. Jenny Connolly, a dear friend who has appeared on Coffee Breaks with Steve on a couple of occasions. Birthday is also this week on February 27th. Patrick Jinks, an amazing author, leader, think tank kind of guy. And in fact, Patrick is going to be on Coffee Breaks with Steve in a few weeks, sharing some insights on leadership. But Patrick is celebrating a birthday this week on February 28th. And then my aunt, Karen Sparks, there's an asterisk there because her birthday is actually on February 29th. She is a leap year baby. She technically only has a birthday once every 4 years on leap year when we have a February 29th, but she celebrates it. She gets to celebrate it every year. But imagine being able to say, if you really count just the every 4 years, you could stay young for a long period of time. But anyway, happy birthday, Aunt Karen. And then another one of my aunts, my Aunt Mary Kay, celebrates a birthday on March 2nd. So happy birthday to Mary Kay as well. And if I missed a birthday, an anniversary, or a special day that you've got coming up this week, please put that in the chat so that we can make sure that we celebrate that with you. If you have a special day of some sort coming up in the month of March, in the next few weeks, you can email me at cbwsteve@comcast.net. And we can make sure that we put that on our calendar so that when the right week comes, the right time comes, we can celebrate that with you as well. All right. And I think we've had a couple of people join since I last said hello. Hello, Mary Bowl. It's good to see you out there as well. And once again, if you are just tuning in, make sure that you say hello in the chat. We'd like to know that you're here. And do make sure that you participate in the conversation once we get into our guest and our topic. And I'm going to move on to that now because I want to make sure we get to that. When people meet my next guest, what they often see is a man who's driven to succeed. Mony Nop's drive to succeed is deeply rooted in a childhood of extreme hardship. A survivor of the killing fields of Cambodia, he also spent 5 years in refugee camps in Thailand and the Philippines before arriving with his family in the United States, where he worked as a child laborer in a migrant camp. Through all of that, Mony persevered, becoming a police officer and serving 17 years with the Livermore, California Police Department. He went on to earn his degree in business management from St. Mary's College and transitioned to a career in real estate. Now known as the Giving Back Realtor, Mony enjoys being actively involved in his community. He's the founder and president of an organization called Rising Young Leaders, which provides leadership training to middle and high school students. He is also the co-founder of the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance, an organization that works to help hundreds of local nonprofit organizations achieve their mission. Mony has been featured on CBS's The Early Show, ABC's Extreme Makeover Home Edition for his community service. Among his many awards and recognitions are the Good Neighbors Award from Bay East Association of Realtors, the Good Neighbor Award from the National Association of Realtors, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Legacy Award, and the St. Mary's College Meritorious Service Award. And as I said, I think those are just a few of the recognitions and the accolades that go with this amazing man. So with that, I'm just going to say, welcome, Mony Nop, to Coffee Break with Steve. It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Steve. And because we are talking about coffee, so I just turned 50, and 50 is the ultimate F word. I thought I'd share that with you. So it's a great gift that I got.
It is. And, you know, 50 years young, that's absolutely for certain. And we're going to kind of talk about it. I mean, this has been this last year, you know, as you transition from 49 to 50, I know, Mony, there's just been a lot that's happened in your life. We're going to get to that. But we need to really start, even giving that introduction is almost unfair, because it almost just scoots past some things that I think are so critical in understanding where you came from and why where you came from is so important to where you are in your life right now. You were born in what's referred to as the killing fields of Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge, this terrible regime that was exercising genocide during the 70s. And what do you recall about those early childhood years in Cambodia, and what life was actually like, and then how you and your family got out of there?
Well, thank you, Steve. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and your audience and kind of share. It's a lot of fun. But I noticed that you gave a lot of dates and whatnot. I thought there was one more day coming up in March that I thought everybody should know about. That's March 8th, International Women's Day. So I think that's a great date. In fact, we're doing something at my office with my wife, and having a former mayor, Kathy Brown, is going to be speaking on that. But I thought it was really, really important to share that with the audience. But let me go back to your question. You know, I was unfortunately, I was born right into the killing fields of Cambodia, right into when the genocide began in 1972. And 7 days after I was born, my parents said they bombed our village, and then we had to kept moving to we kept on moving to different villages until we arrived. I don't know where, but we ended up living in like a little village with force built above ground, with no running water, no electricity, no toilets, none of that. None of those amenities that we have here in the United States of America. And, you know, you go to bed hungry every night. I mean, I remember eating every bugs and animal. You name that, I had it. You know, cats, dogs, mice, iguanas, snakes, horses, roots. I got scars over my body from those experiences the first 6 years of my life. But just remember going to bed hungry every night. In fact, at the age of 5.5 years old, my parents are gone all day when they work for the Communist Party, and all the kids in the evening get to see your parents, and they sit you in a mass tent on a dirt floor, and like a little semicircle, and then you're just waiting. You're holding on to a bowl and a spoon, just waiting for some adult to come in the middle, put some food down, and we just devour it. So that happened the first time. The second time, as the food was running out, I dumped the rest of it into my bowl. One kid jumped up, got mad, so mad, jumped up, latched onto me, and bit me.
Oh,
I still have a 2-inch bite mark on the right side of my chest right now from that memory. So that's blood gushing everywhere. I was just crying as a little kid, and I just those are some early memories. But just going to bed hungry every day, and so that's how I grew up. And at the age of 6.5, and finally, when the Vietnamese army came to our Cambodia, they fought the Khmer Rouge and gave us an opportunity to escape, and we all ran and walked to Thailand, and we're among thousands of other refugees, where bombs going off, people getting shot, and dead bodies all over the place, just like the people of Ukraine experiencing right now. It's just exactly like it. So it was horrible, but we made it, and got to Thailand, registered in, and lived there for 4 years, and then ended up in going to the Philippines and lived there for about 9 months. But what's so significant about Thailand was that for the first time in my life, I got to go to school. I've never been to school before. So I got to go to school for about 8.5 months in the 3-4 years I was in Thailand.
How old were
And
you at that point, Mony?
I was 7 years old, and I
Okay.
lived there until about 10 years old.
Okay. So you got to Thailand, and then from Thailand it was to the Philippines.
To the Philippines, and the Philippines was by that time I was almost 10 years old, and so when I got there, it was just a tropical forest. Again, a little shack in the middle of the island somewhere, among other thousands of other refugees. But what was so cool when you look back was like the greatest childhood I could ever ask for. Every day I would go to school. I don't remember what I learned, but I would go to school. But what I was looking forward to every day was my father and I made our own wooden gun using an umbrella spoke and a rubber band, and we made our own goggles. The stream is about 20 minutes away, so we would walk there every day and spend 4 to 6 hours each day and going to the streams. And the water was always clear, and there's fish, there's eel, there's everything. So we would shoot up the fish and shrimp and eel, bag them up. On the way home, we would find firewoods and cook for the family when we get home. So that's how we do it many, many days. But the days that we don't go to the stream, my father made some friends up with the Filipinos up in the mountains. So we would climb the mountains, and I would carry a bag of rice with me, and I would trade for rice for potato. So I would bring the potato back, and they get the rice, and that's how we did it for 9.5 months until we came to the United States of America on July 8th, 1983. So shortly after MASH discontinued, apparently.
and you arrived in you arrived via San Francisco? Is that how you came into the States at that point?
Yeah, and I arrived in San Francisco with the immigration processing center before they ship us to our destination. But what was so cool about that was that my first impressions of America. Well, first of all, before I got to the United States of America, I thought I'd tell you a story. We came from the Philippine Islands, Morong Bataan, all the way to Manila the night before we were supposed to come to the United States. Well, first of all, the trek to Manila was crazy. It was about 3.5 hour drive, but the roads were narrow and the cliffs were steep. And Steve, most of us have never been on a bus before. Oh. It's in the middle of summer, July 8th, 1983. People got sick, barfed all over. Oh. So when the bus weave and turned, so did the vomit. It was like a bunch of snakes slithering through the bus. It was incredible, and the stench you'll never forget.
Wow.
And so when we arrived in Manila, they put us in a former prison overnight. Vacated prison. We stayed there, shower, and the next morning we got onto the bus and they came to Manila airport, and then we stopped in Tokyo, Japan. After Tokyo, Japan, fueled up, left again. 2 hours later, we had all kinds of problems. And my dad said, I think they lost an engine or whatever. They had to come back. Wow. First time in Japan, in a first world country. Think about this. This is, remember, number 2 economic engine in the world at the time, right? So we got there. We didn't even know what an escalator looked like. People or mirrors. We've never seen one, So we live in a tropical forest. Think about that, right? Yeah. So people walk into glasses and mirrors. I mean, it was just crazy. But what was so cool was that they had a buffet, and we lined up to eat. And that was the first time I had a full stomach in my life. I was almost 11 years old. And then once we ate, we went to our room, checked in. The phone rang. We didn't know what a phone was. Remember this? I didn't even know what TV was. Saw TV for the first time. The phone rang. We all ran and hid, Steve. We wanted to shower. My aunt turned on the water faucet and burnt herself because what's hot water, what's cold water when you never had water to turn on.
Yeah.
So that was cool. That was memorable. And then the next day we came to the United States of America, San Francisco. My first impression of America was that when we got processed, it was cold. Remember, it's in July, right? Always cold in San Francisco. They gave us, my first gift in America was a coat with the fake fur around the neck and the collars, and then with the 3 pinstripes. Oh my gosh, I thought I was in heaven. And then a few hours later, we got to Arizona. It was 118 degrees.
Oh, yeah, because you went straight to Tempe, Arizona.
Tempe,
Was that where your
Arizona.
family ended up?
Yeah,
How long
yeah.
were you in Tempe?
I was there for about 9 months. Yeah,
Okay.
I lived there for about 9 months. But the 9 months, it was cool. First of all, we got the reason why we're there is because our sponsor was there, and he sponsors through the church program. So we got accepted into the community. They took us to church. We got clothes for the first time, and 6 days later, we moved into our first apartment complex.
Wow.
And all it had was red clay in the back, but we had our own room, our own toothbrush, own toothpaste. We've never had toothbrush or toothpaste before, Steve. Our own bed, our own mattress, our own pillow. Never had those things before. These are all luxuries.
And see, I think we need to pause just for a minute and really appreciate the significance of that. You shared coming from the village in Cambodia and that whole transition and just living off of whatever food was available. We don't stop often and think these first world problems that we typically face in this day and age have to do with things like, is our internet fast enough? Are we able to pull up the stuff on our TV that we want to pull up? Or can we get where we want to go within 10 minutes of leaving the house? We get frustrated if in the Bay Area, if BART's not running on time or something like that. And you're talking about having the very basics that we think of as part of just daily survival becoming luxuries. And I think we have to stop and appreciate that. What was it like being introduced to Western food?
Oh man, it was amazing, Steve. I got to go to a grocery store for the first time the first week in the United States. I mean, I literally wanted to cry. I ain't never seen so much food before. We went to our first picnic at the church, and my brother and my siblings and I ate so much, like literally went up to here, and we just sat at a bench. We would sit at a bench, and we just had our mouth open, just breathing, because we've never had so much food. There's so much abundance, and to your point, that we have to really think and reflect and look back a little bit. Like, does it really matters? Your tires are flat. I get it. You couldn't print, or yes, we're all impatient, including me. But I try to go back and remind myself where I came from. All the time. So that was great. I mean, but it was just taken. We were taken in by, and excuse my language for saying this in a good way, white America. Our sponsors were white. And they accepted us. It was incredible. So that's my greatest memory, was that our sponsor would come by and drop off clothes and make sure we had food. They took us to the church. We didn't drive. So it was cool. And what was so cool was the next neighbor in the apartment complex. It was Cambodian American, but they had a bike, a pink bicycle with one pedal. That's when I learned how to ride a bicycle. And then they also had TV, so we would go to the place. We didn't have one, and I would watch TV with them. My first show ever was, you remember this? 8 is Enough. Little Nicholas. That's how I learned how to speak English. Just follow him. I have no idea what they were saying, but I just love the story and just kind of go with it. I was addicted to watching that show. That's how I learned how to speak English.
Goodness, that's amazing. So you were in Tempe, Arizona, and then your family ended up going to Stockton, California. Was that straight from Tempe? You went to Stockton?
Yeah,
Was
Stockton,
that for
California.
work? Was that for opportunities to? What drove you to your family to go to Stockton?
Yeah, my father's friend was in Stockton. Hold on a second. My robot has come on. Let me shut it off.
No problem. No problem. Another first world problem.
Yeah, another first world problem. The robot's coming on at 10 o'clock. Yeah. But before I get to Stockton, I thought it's important to share, like, the part of my background in Tempe, Arizona. First of all, I went to school a month later, and I went to school that's mainly all white, except for 7 Cambodian Americans in the whole entire school. So it was incredible that I was forced to learn English so fast. But you had to do what you had to do.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we all, my siblings and I talk about still today, is that the first week after learning how to ride a bicycle, I learned how to ride a bigger bicycle. Then I would take my older sister with me every day at 6 o'clock in the morning on the back of the bike. We would go to a nearby apartment complex, huge apartment complex. We would go dumpster diving for aluminum cans.
Oh.
And what I do, I would bring them back, and we would bag up the aluminum cans. We would bag them, put them in the backyard, and a lot of times in the evening, I would make my brother and sister scoop the red clay from the backyard, put that into the cans. I would spray water and then crush them and bag them so they would be a lot heavier when I turn them in for money. That's how I make my first American dollar, by the way.
Okay.
So, so I thought you should know that. That's always been part of me, is that I've always been street smart, and I learned how to be whatever the situation is. I've always know how to make money. I've always know how to go get it. So that's significant. And that's when we came to Stockton, California. After that, 9 months later, my father had a friend down here. It's an agriculture town, and also there's a lot of Cambodian here, and part of it is because of the Refugee Settlement Act. I'm not sure which president signed it. It could have been Carter, by the way, in the 80s, to bring in more refugees in the United States of America. But we got here, and I became a migrant worker. My father became a gambling alcoholic. My mother would go with him. So they left us 9 months in the United States of America to fend for ourselves every day. Wow. So that's when I had to go to work, and I signed all my own paperwork in school. I forged my dad's signature. I signed it all the way through school until I was 18 years old. But what was so cool about that too is that once we got to Stockton, I work in the summertime and I go to school. But I went to school. I started third grade. I went to fourth grade. But since I signed my own paperwork, Steve, I said, you know what? I'm gonna skip fifth grade. I'm gonna sign myself in sixth grade. Lo and behold, they let me in. So I met Mrs. Cardoza in sixth grade. After 2 months, she walked up to me, and there's one thing I didn't tell you. When we registered into the refugee camps in Thailand, because we didn't have any records, we could just make up whatever. My father lowered everybody's age by 4 years. So I was 10 and a half, but on paper, I was 6.5 years old.
Okay.
So when I got in the United States, but now I was 11, I was basically about 7.5 years old. So, anyhow, I got to the sixth grade, and she said, "You seem really mature." I told her with my broken English. She believed me, Steve. She went to talk to the principal, and they said, "You know what? We're going to move you to seventh grade." They moved me to seventh grade after 2 months in sixth grade. They said, "If you do really well in seventh grade, we'll put you in eighth grade." 4 months later, I was in eighth grade. I went to eighth grade for 2 months. I went to ninth grade the next year.
Wow.
And that's how I skipped 4 grades in school.
Wow.
So anyhow, that's significant of Stockton.
At what point did you feel like law enforcement was a career path you wanted to follow? When did that set in? I know that you began pursuing that in Stockton, but when did that become something that was part of your vision?
At the age of 16, Steve, I was in high school. I was in my sophomore year, and I remember meeting Captain Hansen. Captain Hansen worked for Lodi PD at the time, and he came and taught a civic class, like, hey, here's what police officers do. And basically, we just cut out a newspaper article, just talk about police work, and we would come and talk about it. I got really interested in it. But my first impression of being a police officer was like, wow, kick ass and take names? I could do this, right? Yeah. But what I didn't realize is that, Steve, there was a written test you have to get in. It's all in English. Sentence structure, grammar, spelling, reading, writing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, okay, I want to do this thing because I'm like, kick ass, take names, let's do it. So I go take the test the first time, fail. Okay. I took it for 4 years, Steve. 4 years, never gave up on that dream. And I passed it on my fourth year, passed it by 3 points. And then I got in the police academy. I didn't know what the uniform was. I had to borrow a police uniform. I'm like, how do I get shoes? I have to shine my boots and all these things. I had no idea. This is my 10th year in the United States of America. And
Oh,
remember, I didn't speak a word of English at the time.
right.
I mean, when I got in the United States, but I'm learning, and but I've always done well in school. So I said, so I finally got out of the police academy. Then I became a reserve police officer. I signed, and before that, I did about 8 months of reserve academy. So I became a reserve police officer for the city of Stockton. Then I got in the police academy. So I got out of the police academy, and 3 months before the police academy, when I was supposed to graduate, I got into a fight while I was going to police academy. This is off the academy campus, playing basketball, and my house got shot at. This guy his house. This guy that I got in a fight with, his house got shot at. My windows got broken. His house got shot at. My windows got broken.
Goodness.
One night, as I was getting out of academy, an hour later, the police officer came. These are the officers I work with. These are like I know really, really
Yeah.
well. They thought I was a suspect, Steve. So an attorney affair initiated. They took my gun and badge away from me for about 6.5 months. I graduated from the academy nonetheless, and I asked for a lie detector test from the get-go. I mean, how can I be involved in a drive-by shooting when I'm going to police academy and just got home
Right.
an hour later? So they thought I did it. I had nothing to do with it, and I passed the test.
Okay.
And on December 4th, 1995, 6 months later, I got hired here in Livermore PD, and that's the day that changed my life. And that's the uniform right there. I was 22 years old right there. Look at a young pup.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
With that smile and ready to take on the world. And by then
Yeah,
you knew
and-
it was more than just kicking asses and taking names, right? You began to get you had quite a career with the Livermore Police, and it was instrumental, I think, both from what I know of you, Mony, it was instrumental both in terms of its impact on your life, but also as that was really a major starting point in your giving back to your community in terms of life in Livermore.
Yes, Steve, there's so many full circles in life. From before I became a police officer, by the way, I also worked as a bilingual aide in the classroom.
Okay.
And that in itself, when I became a police officer, I ended up teaching in the school, the DARE program for 3 years when they gave me the position to be in charge of this program. And from my first year, I said, oh my gosh, how do we grow this thing? Well, I took it from 8 schools when I first started to 20 schools at my third year. 20 schools.
Wow.
And then we
That's
found
amazing.
out that we could take public money and teach at private schools as well,
Yeah.
like St. Michael's or Xavier Lutheran and all that. And that was never been done before.
Yeah.
And because of that, we built such a relationship with the community. And I think that as a result, we got a lot of support from the community, how we did our work. And it was a lot easier to, when you have issues, when you have support from the community. So that plays a significant role. But being a police officer was one of the most amazing thing. I still believe in it. I still, talk like it. And once you're a police officer, they always say you're a police officer. Still true. Like I'm driving. I see people not wearing the seatbelt. Like, oh, the tabs expired, or the lamps out. So it's just crazy. But yeah, it was an amazing platform, an opportunity to launch. But I got to teach in the school.
Yeah.
It was incredible to be able to work with people, Steve, different type of people. Almost got shot a couple times, but it's just crazy. But I wouldn't exchange for anything because it gave me such a broad view of what society is all about.
And you had a great opportunity to touch young people as a police officer. In fact, because of your first initial and your last name, you were known, you kind of had a nickname, particularly among the young people, right?
Yeah. So Officer MNOP, so
and you wrote a kid's book about
That's right.
what police do a few years ago.
That's right.
Which we're actually showing the cover of here.
That's it. Yeah. So that book was part of it is because the kids always call me Officer MNOP. So for example, at St. Michael, I would teach the class, and then when I'm not teaching, I go to recess with the kids. I would play four squares and everything. They all call me Officer MNOP. And they said, can you initial my, like sign an autograph in the hand, the second, first, second. Oh my God, it's the greatest jam. I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. So, and then part of it is also talking about the book. I never got to read, Steve. I never got to read, so I didn't like reading until my 8th year in at the police department. I walked the hall one day and someone says, I said, I kind of stopped learning. They said, why didn't you go to school? So they go, well, school? So they said, yeah, I'm going to St. Mary's College right now, night school, while I'm working full-time as a police officer. Like, okay. So I was going through a divorce at the time, fought for custody, working full-time as a police officer, a single father, 2 boys. I've had full custody of them since 7, 8 years old. Yeah, I said, yeah, that's because life is easy for me. Like after all the Cambodian stuff, I'm like, this is easy. I'll just go to night school too, full-time. So 19 months later, I got my degree from St. Mary's College. I was second in my class.
Nice.
But what significantly changed my life was that, one, I got a degree in business management. 2, I became an avid reader as a result. Changed my world. Like I read 6 books my entire life before I went to St. Mary's College. And it changed my world. Like, oh my gosh. And once I got the degree, that's how I quit the Livermore Police Department after 5 years later on March 2nd, 2012.
And began a career that has continued to carry you forward.
Yeah. And, the hustling never stopped. My first year, actually, I hired my first assistant, and it happened to be the wife of my chief of police.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So she was with me for 5.5 years. But remember, the hustling never stopped, Steve. Yeah. My first year in the Bay Area and the price point we were at, I sold 27 homes. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I can make this kind of money and have the flexibility and not have to worry about getting shot at. Now all I have to do is worry about paper cuts. I'm like, this is crazy. So, but it's been amazing. So the last 10 years, I found my sweet spot actually, Steve, between 25 and 30 homes every year. I've always sold that.
Okay.
But what's so significant about that is that when I sell 25 to 30 homes in the Bay Area, you make good money. You have the time, the flexibility, and also you make enough money to give back, and you make enough money. You have the time to volunteer in the community. That's why I've always loved. I never forgot where it came from. That's always why we always love going back. But it's been an amazing career. I teach several courses now. I just love it. I just want to drive the passion and grow the industry through professionalism. It's really, really important that we have that, industry.
We're gonna get short on time, and we're probably gonna run long as everybody knows that. I'm okay with that. But this idea of giving back, one of the things that you were involved in, there are a number of them, and we probably only have time to talk about a few. But I encourage people to find your story online. I'll probably post some things on my Facebook page after this, so people can look you up and get more information about this. But you were a co-founder of an organization that I was very involved in for several years, the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance. And I think the story of how that began is worth taking a few minutes to tell.
Thank you, Stephen. First of all, we're so happy that you have been a part of it for a very, very long time. You helped to shape it to the way it became today. But one day I work in this building in downtown Livermore, and I'm on the second floor, and met this gal on the first floor. Her name is Kathy Young, my co-founder, and because the damn elevator takes like 10 minutes to come down, we just stand and talk. And even once you get in, you press the go button. It's like, it's like thinking about it.
I've been in that building. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yes. We had so much time to chit chat, and we gave each other an elevator speech. And she said she'd always wanted to do this, and I said I've always wanted to do this. And it just 2 minds came together at one time, and we met like 6 more times after that. And that was our first meeting, by the way, right there. And we said, let's do this thing. And we brought the first meeting together with all the nonprofits. And we had 3 ideas actually, but just so you know, when we first talked about, 1 was to bring the nonprofits together, 2 was to have our own resource center, and 3 was to give our own grants away. And we're doing all 3 right now, 8.5 years later.
Yeah, within just the last 3 or 4 years, the idea of being able to start giving those grants. And then just about a year ago, the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance moved into that center that you were instrumental in helping to provide the financial resources for that to happen. And now a year later, celebrating the first anniversary of being in that resource center. That's one of several things that you've done, but for the last number of years, you've also been involved in something around the Thanksgiving season that has made a big
Yeah.
difference in the community. You want to talk just for a minute about that? Because I've got a picture here I think is worth showing of that too.
Yeah, well, go back to what you were saying about giving back. It's so important. Before I talk about this, like, I'll give an example why that is so significant to us. Yesterday, Tri Valley Haven called my wife and I, say, hey, Mony, we're running out of food at shelter. So,
Yeah.
because they used to have 25 people coming in per day, now they're getting 45. We said, okay, what can we do? So we said, all right, starting March 1st, we're going to put 2 bins at our office and just asking our friend to come put, perishable, non-perishable, perishable, they take it to the site, non-perishable, they can bring it to us, and we'll fill it for a whole month.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to, do the press release. We're going to get the ads out. We're going to put on, we have several thousand, 15, 20,000 people on our social media. We're going to put that all blast everywhere. We'll put a flyer for it just to get people to give back to the community. So that's part of it's giving back. But when you think about it, in Livermore, for example, it's a 40, just the surrounding us, it's a $42 billion industry. 57% of the population around here has a bachelor degree or higher. 25% has a master's degree.
Yeah.
It's significant, but yet we can never forget when we become leader of the people that are down here. There's a reason why you're the leader. It's not because you're power, influence, and all that, but for the speaking for the people that don't have any. It's so important. People really need to remember that, not the power or influence, but rather how do you help the people down here along the way, and the people up here, let's move them up and let them ask them, inspire them to do greater things too for the people that are just in part of the community. So every year, 7 years ago, Christine Dillman, the exec director now, came to me and she said, we ran out of turkeys for the family. I'm like, what? In Livermore? So I said, all right, my business will take it on. And we started this thing called Mony Nop Turkey Drop. And as a result, we've been raising hundreds of turkey, thousands of dollars every year. And with the community, I would go out 2 weeks before, door hang, 5,000 door hangers every 2 weeks before. And I would put on a turkey costume, look like an idiot. Oh, there it is. We do this for 7 years now. And I just met my wife recently. When she put that on, I'm like, oh, this is the girl to marry. No other girlfriends have ever done that.
Had to marry her. Yeah.
So I just married her 13 months ago, and it's been incredible. And she loved it as much as I do. But this is what we do. And it was such an honor to be able to do this. And we'll continue doing it forever and ever until whatever. And we just love that the community come together to help other people. And we just hope that not in the time of Thanksgiving and the time of giving, but giving throughout the year is so important. And we try to do that. In fact, I built my backyard, my home, when I renovated it. It's only 1,700 square feet, but we got an 8,500 square feet lot. We have our own shed with 100 chairs and tables and linens and shaper dishes and everything. We host a lot of nonprofits back here just to give back. City Service as a nonprofit, we're going to be hosting back here in September. We've already talked about it. We're going to be hosting them, and it's a fundraising for them. We'll provide all the food, we'll provide a venue, we'll provide all that, and food and wine. They do what they need to do in order to raise money. 100% goes to them. That's what we want to do. So we'll continue to do that.
Mony, your story is, I think, it's an inspirational story because I think partially because so many of us probably struggle to even understand or relate to what it was like in the early days in much of your growing up. And then to flip that around on the other side of that and to understand where it led you and what your life has become since then. First of all, I want to say thank you to you. You and I have known each other long enough, and I have had a chance to see well beyond what we're able to talk to today. What you have done and continue to do in your community. You've been involved in the community in so many ways, politically and socially, and you and Sophie getting married was just a different partnership, I think, toward the things you're going to do. I'm going to ask you this, and I know this is probably a somewhat open-ended question just in the last couple of minutes that we have left. What's next for Mony Nop?
A couple things real quick. One, always remember where you come from, and two, always be the most grateful person. When you're most grateful, you always get more, because God will take them away and get them, humble you if you don't become grateful. But what's next? I'm working on a couple of projects right now. One is going to be the first Cambodian American report in America. So my wife and I are on advisory
Okay.
help set up the whole thing, and that's going to be done in August, and that's going to be fascinating because it's only 300 to 400,000 Cambodian American in America of the 18 million in Cambodia. We're such a small population, 30 billion dollar GDP in Cambodia, by the way. But we're going to see what the community is like, the occupation, the salary, the housing, ownership, and everything, the issues in the community, the solution. So we're going to look at that. It's going to be in English and in Cambodian. So that's one of the things we're working on. But right now, it's just looking for, I'm not on any boards. I'm just looking, what's next for me? What is it that I can do to be, I hate to be on boards, to be honest with you. I just want to do something that I can be impactful. Just got approached by a local college recently, probably be working on their presidential scholar, working directly with the president, and look at 20 students that they select every year to give 2 years of tuition free for community college.
Wow.
But how do I provide access and opportunity via leadership to them? So we can have, for example, a mixer with all the leaders, like speed dating mixer. So this way, because a poor child like myself will never go up to someone of authority and say, I'm Mony. You won't do that unless you got to know before. So, what about Google Campus? What about Facebook? What about so many other opportunities that to look at through the leadership lens, and how do you provide that access and opportunity so they too could become a leader in their own life and a leader in the world down the road. But we just got to give them the access and opportunity. So if I'm honored to be a part of something like that, it'd be so amazing, to be honest with you. So that's what I look forward to.
Well, you are indeed. I think if we could put look up the word influencer, that would also, your name would just be part of the definition for that. Mony Nop, I know that we could have spent another hour talking about all of this, but I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us and to share even a part of your story, and hopefully it does inspire some people to think about, where have I come from and how do I use that to motivate me and drive me toward the things that I'm being called to do in this life, because we all have those opportunities. So my friend, we will be talking, but you take care.
Thank you, Steve. And the greatest thing you could do for a better life is to give back to the community. That will make you happiest. So thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you. You take care and say hi to Sophie for me.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
I tell you something, I never get tired. I've had the privilege of knowing Mony for several years, and I never get tired of hearing the story, but more than anything else, I never get tired of just being inspired by him. And because the story brings such a perspective and a significance. So once again, thank you, Mony. I want to take just a couple of minutes to tell you about some things that are coming up, and then I'm going to let you get on with your weekend, and I'm going to get on with mine. But next week on Coffee Breaks, we're going to have, in fact, the next 3 weeks, I think we have people who've been on Coffee Breaks before who are going to be returning and sharing some updates with us. Katie Truesdell, who's the owner of Magical Mystery Tours, a tour company that puts together surprise vacation packages for people, but she is also in general also a travel professional. And Katie's going to come back on Coffee Breaks with Steve to give us some updates about what Magical Mystery Tours is doing, but primarily to talk to us about how travel is coming back to life post-pandemic, what things are coming back full strength, what things are still kind of up in the air about traveling to various places, and what things have maybe changed forever based on what happened during the pandemic. So we're gonna talk to Katie next week. And then in a couple of weeks, Derek Nelson, singer-songwriter, he was on the TV show Glee. He and his siblings had a performing group, Derek Nelson and Family, for several years. Derek has been with us in the past and also had to make some adjustments during the pandemic. He's going to be back to talk about what he's doing, both in terms of sharing his talent with others through teaching and mentoring, but also performing. We'll get some updates from Derek in a couple of weeks. And then 3 weeks out, Lisa Steele is going to be back. And we're going to talk about what I think is a fascinating subject. We're going to be talking about failure and why we tend as human beings culturally and psychologically, we avoid failure. We think failure is a negative thing. And we're going to talk to Lisa about, well, why failure is something that we should be able to embrace and turn around and make something that we can turn into the next success. Failure should be something that continues to motivate us. And I think it goes along even with what we just talked about with Mony. If you have any topics you would like to see us talk about on Coffee Breaks with Steve, you have any guests, particularly if you know somebody that maybe you can make an invitation to, you think would be a fantastic guest on Coffee Breaks, want to hear from you, you can email me at cbwsteve@comcast.net to share your ideas about those. Also, don't forget that you can find Coffee Breaks with Steve in addition to on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also find episodes of Coffee Breaks on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So once again, just make sure that you're telling people about us. Not that I'm not looking to pat myself on the back with what we do here, but I think that there are so many great topics and great guests that people have an opportunity to meet. I want to spread the word about it. You can also go back and if people weren't able to tune in today, have them watch the recording of this conversation with Mony, because I think it was fantastic. Also, I know several of you made comments and asked questions on here today that we didn't get to, but Mony's going to have the opportunity to go in and look at your comments in the chat later on, and hopefully he'll have an opportunity to address any of the questions that you asked that we weren't able to answer here. So with all of that said, listen, I think there is probably not a more significant week to say what I always say at the end of our time together, and that is we all have a voice. We all have opportunities to do things that will give back. And so please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you and have a great week.